Welcome to Forthright, the podcast with, for and by women writers.
We have some brilliant guest writers lined up for you this season, covering a wide range of genres and experience.
We hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Forthright podcast. I'm Anna.
And I'm Sam, and today we're very excited to have Kate Sawyer with us. Hi, Kate.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
So, Kate worked as an actor and theatre and events producer before writing several short films and then turning her hand to fiction. Her debut novel, Stranding, was shortlisted for the Costa First Novel Award, won the East Anglian Fiction Prize, was adapted for BBC Radio 4 Book at Bedtime, and is being developed for TV by Fremantle and Afua Hirsch's production company, Born in Me. Her second novel, This Family, is a Waterstones Book of the Month. When Kate isn't writing or talking to other authors about their writing practices for her podcast Novel Experience, she is busy producing the annual Bury St Edmunds Literature Festival. After 25 years living in London, she recently returned to her native East Anglia, where she lives with her young daughter.
And today, Kate is going to be reading from This Family, which we're very excited about. So I'm just going to read the blurb first. Mary has raised her daughters in this house, watched them play and fight and grow up in this house. Today, it is the house where she will get married. The wedding celebrations have brought the fractured family together for the first time in years. There is Phoebe and her husband Michael, children in tow. The young and sensitive Rosie with her new partner. Irene, Mary's ex-mother-in-law. And Emma, there despite all that has gone before. Set over the course of an English summer's day and punctuated with memories from the past 40 years of love and betrayal, hope and joy, heartbreak and grief, this is the story of a family. Told by a chorus of characters, it is the exploration of the intimacies and transgressions that bring us where we are, the changes that brought about by time, and what, despite everything, stays the same. Oh, wonderful. So, Kate, before you read the extract, if you wouldn't mind just saying at what point it is in the book, just for our listeners.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering if you need that. So, spoiler-free, and from at the very beginning of the book, actually page 4, so there's a little bit before it, but it's really, I think this really sets it up. One thing I will give a quick caveat for, though, is I am a trained actress, but I do apologise for my Glaswegian accent.
Wonderful. Over to you.
It is the stillness, this blanket of heat that lies so heavily over everything, which renders the radio in the kitchen audible. At the end of the garden, under the willow, if there were even a light breeze, at this distance she wouldn't be able to hear it at all. Now, in the stultifying stillness of midday on this worryingly warm September day, it is just possible to make out the words, to decipher the news stories. The hottest September day since records began. She feels bad for her relief. She knows that it's all wrong, that she should be worrying about climate change, climate catastrophe. Ordinarily, she does. They even did a test drive in an electric car a few months ago. But today, she can't help but be delighted that it's sunny. Sunny and warm. It feels like a blessing. A wave of nausea washes over her. There's something almost awful about being this excited. It's remarkably similar to terror. Or maybe it is terror. For all the reassurances she's had, still lurking beneath the fizz of excitement, there is an unshakable presentiment that bringing this family together can only end in disaster. It is my dearest wish, she'd written, in the same green ink with which she addressed each of the letterpress invitations, that after so long apart, I'm able to bring this family together for my wedding day. I don't think it's my way to ask much of others, but now I am asking each of you to give me one day where you leave any animosity at the gate and try to remember that you love each other. When all three of the girls' RSVPs arrived in the affirmative, she was delighted. But she's since wondered if any of them had turned over the card and seen her note. Oh no, They had their differences, their problems, but she raised these 3 women. None of them is the sort of person who would ruin her wedding day, are they? That's it.
Oh, fantastic. And also an absolute seamless Glaswegian accent, may I say.
Well, I imagine some Glaswegian listeners might disagree, but
So the whole book kind of simultaneously takes place in the space of a couple of days, but also over a decade. So
it's 40 years actually.
Sorry, I meant over decades. Yes, over several decades.
Yeah, decades. So yes.
So but when you were putting this together, when you were kind of thinking it through, like, how did you approach it in terms of how much backstory or flashbacks to include to make it so that it's balanced so very beautifully as a story?
Unfortunately, I can speak very clearly about my writing process because I'm currently in the second draft of my next novel, and I can say very honestly that it is just chaos.
It's very reassuring to hear.
I basically write from my gut. I edit like sort of feeling my way through it. I have moments of like flashes of inspiration that can completely change my direction and to a certain extent form or structure. Brilliant. So with this family, I started with just the 24 hours of the party, but I knew that I wanted like layers of memory because there is sort of flashback, or not flashback, but there is some memory within the present chapters. But I also knew that I wanted to sort of delve into the past and then have the past perfect as well within that. And so it was really a bit of a trial and error thing, but I quickly sort of realised that I wanted to go into the past, but the past wouldn't necessarily be chronological. So it was trial and error, and then in the edit, my editor asked me to remove 2 characters' perspectives. So it's told from 7 perspectives, but and so therefore 14 memories actually from the past. But originally there were 9 characters, so there were 18 flashbacks to the past. So that took a lot of reconfiguration, all of which is always for the better when you have to really think through your text and realign it. It just requires killing your darlings, A, and B, interrogating the text and saying, is this essential for A, storytelling, B, character, or C, occasionally just vibes. But most of the time it's just the other 2 that is the more important part of it. So that's what I'm doing at the moment as well, but that is definitely how it works for this family.
And with this family then, if you had to take to remove 2 of your characters, kill 2 of your darlings, was that quite a difficult thing to do? Were the characters that you've grown quite fond of, or could you be quite brutal in the editing?
They are still there. They're just not from the story's just not told from their perspective, with their memories informing the whole picture, I suppose. And there is a little bit of like sadness about not getting their perspective, but I also think you have to always ask, what is the story that I'm trying to tell here? Yeah. And they were very valuable, interesting stories about these people, but how much did they contribute to the whole as about this fractured family? Were they, if I was honest with myself, are they not either about the past of that, further back into the past of that family, further explaining the issues that the family might have, and or more about where the family could be going? I suppose that was what my editor was sort of like trying to get me to look at, like what is the main causes of the issues that are boiling up on this day. So it was hard, but they're still there. We just don't get to see inside their heads.
Yeah,
but
And I suppose that
That's
also
kind of interesting
knowing what their story is as well just helps you inform the bits that you are writing.
Definitely. And I think readers can still pick up on a lot of it, because within the text, within what I know about them as a writer, I'm giving little clues to that stuff. It's not at the forefront of the narrative, but all stories, well, not all stories, but most stories, certainly the stories I like to read, and reality has so many different perspectives to look at, so many layers of truth, that it's kind of exciting to have these sort of slightly Easter eggs, really, for these other stories that I've fleshed out, that the readers can get a little bit of insight into.
I really loved the kind of pace of it, and the hooks that just kept me wanting to, learn more about the family, and everything that was leading up to this day, and what chaos could possibly ensue. That Mary was referred to in the bit that you read. But I just think you write such incredible female characters.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mary and everything that that she takes on throughout that, and Ruth in the Stranding as well. But so where do your characters come from? Because they feel so complete and flawed and human, and how do you do that?
Well, I suppose particularly, actually for both, I'm quite because I'm really interested in like social commentary. I guess is the more I go on, I realise that it's kind of what I'm interested in, and I suppose some of this stems from theatre. My background as an actor, and thinking about, for this book particularly, I was thinking about archetypes.
Yeah.
And it's got three sisters in it, and I used to be an actor, and there are various references in the text, and I don't need to be a genius to see that some of my inspiration probably came from Chekhov, but it was quite deep in there, in that. Several things that I love about his plays are that they're like often set in one space, which obviously this family is, over the course of a day and maybe a little bit after. But everybody brings with them their past, but also there's this element of the archetype of each of the characters representing sort of a segment of society. And I sort of start there, which means that then everything I'm trying to do is trying to subvert that. So if you think about Mary, if I write, I'm like, right, this is a boomer woman. If I'm doing that, then everything else that I do isn't supposed to sort of stick to that stereotype. Every decision I make about her. And to a certain extent, I kind of think that we're all that a little bit, like, because we do, I'm an elder millennial, and I definitely have a few of those elder millennial things, when I, for example, I saw a tweet the other day, or a Instagram, that apparently only elder millennials have to use their computer to reply to an email. Like, millennials, everyone else is just like, just do it on your phone, what's wrong with you? But I need to see it on a computer, and that apparently marks me out as an elder millennial.
Well, it all feels very casual, responding to an email on a phone.
Exactly, it's so weird. Well, I think they're the weird ones anyway, but I suppose that's my point, being that we do all have bits of that, the truth of that archetype within us, but we also absolutely subvert it, because that, no human is an archetype. And so by starting with an archetype, and with Ruth, it was the every woman, the sort of from theatre, not having sort of any personality, but being entirely made up of their choices. And that was where I started with Ruth. And I suppose this, it's a bit dangerous, because if you don't do it well, then they will just be an archetype. But for me, it sort of helps me to push it away from it. And of course, my editor knows what I'm up to. We've worked together. We're working together now on the third book, and she knows my sort of aims and my inspirations. And she points out quite brutally, this person is just and that makes me, or you've just subverted this rather than looking for something more nuanced. And so it's just that, it's finding the nuance, I suppose, and the surprising thing, and letting your, well, not my pen, I'm not quite that, I'm not whatever it is, Gen X, Gen Z. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not the person, I don't use just my, I don't write in pen, but when I say that, I just, sometimes stuff just comes out, and I just let it come out when I'm at and be taken by surprise by it, which I guess is my subconscious and all of my nosiness and all of my observation and all of my sitting in cafes watching people that I've done for years and years just coming out.
With that as well, because I was just thinking, we were speaking with a writer a little while ago who was talking about how when she gets herself to kind of a sticky point where she can't think herself out of a corner or kind of unpick something about a character, she'll think about it before she goes to sleep, and then when she wakes up, her kind of subconscious has worked it out overnight. I'm just thinking, with the fact that a lot of your stories kind of present themselves to you as you're writing as well, what happens if you get stuck? What do you have any ways to kind of reignite that inspiration, or what do you do when you get a bit of a block, or do you not?
Well, lucky that writer, to be honest, that they just, the brain just sorts it out while they're asleep. I wish. I do try and write through it, and this is partly just because my time is really limited. But of course, I have never got up from my desk. But of course, sometimes I sit there and just put and then take it away and put, of or whatever, and it's nothing is really happening.
Yeah.
But when I do have childcare, then I do my best to use it for my writing time. So, because my daughter's only 4, so it still is, minimal.
Yeah.
I do, however, I do feel much more confident that the writing takes place when I'm also with my daughter, when I am shopping, when I'm talking to friends. Often, the other day I was actually, friends were asking me over a glass of wine. I was visiting friends, and they said, well, how do you manage to do it? Because one of them is a writer as well. I said, honestly, I've been writing all evening. When I'm talking to you, in the background, I'm going, oh, yeah, it's that. That's what it is. I need to do that. Whilst I'm in conversation. And I actually found that with the podcast, to be honest, that the podcast was really helpful for me working through my ideas when listening to other authors talking about the way that they do it, and me thinking, either, oh yeah, I do that too, or I don't, or, just whatever sometimes. So, yeah, I don't beat myself up for the fact that I have to run my house.
Yeah.
I have to, washing up and doing the laundry all provide an opportunity where I'm not plugged in, that my brain can work on stuff. But sometimes watching TV, I tell you what, I mean, I don't know if I really want to give this away, but all of these programs, like the good reality TV programs like Interior Design Masters and Race Across the World, and it's probably true of all reality TV programs to a certain extent, they are like great opportunities for just noticing character quirks, surprising character quirks.
People watching without having to go out.
Or people watching of an evening with a glass of wine. No, I totally agree. We in our house, we're big fans of Four in a Bed, and I've had some great ideas around kind of character development as I've been watching people kind of sit around argue about how much they'd pay to stay in someone's bed and breakfast. It's a brilliant another insight into people's lives that you just wouldn't necessarily get day to day. So yes, big advocate for pinching from TV.
And obviously you mentioned your podcast there, Novel Experience. Big fans. What do you enjoy the most about talking to your fellow authors when you're doing that?
Well, I think it is like the books that I've read as a result of it. I mean, I have to say that the podcast is on an indeterminate, possibly forever pause.
Oh no!
Because the work that was involved in it. I mean, the work that's involved in it, guys. Like, go for you, keep going, because I just couldn't make sense of it anymore for me. Just my focus was too split because I needed to be earning money outside of my writing, and so I mean I'm hopeful that in the future that the balance will shift more in favour of the writing, and then I might be able to do a bit more, go back to doing a podcast. But it did feel like basically I had another job that basically didn't pay me anything.
We're really lucky in that because there's two of us that we share the load of it. Yeah. And but I love talking to authors. The best thing about it was just so reassuring that everyone does it differently. Yes.
And there is no right way to get into writing, to get published, that everyone's experience is different. The form of everybody's writing. I mean, it was also very interesting to me the difference between the sort of, the plotter and the pantser, this thing. I couldn't always tell when I read the book, because we don't always get to ask every author, I mean, you're in that position that I was, where you do get a bit of an opportunity to do it. But, you read a book and think, this is well plotted.
Yeah.
Oh, this must have been plotted. But, I don't plot, and people have told me intricately plotted. And I was like, there is a plot, but it wasn't plotted. And so that was really interesting to me, because then there were some books that I just really loved that I thought, this is really surprising. And then when they told me that it hadn't been plotted, I was like, yeah, maybe that's the thing, that it's just slightly not what you expect of a story. Maybe that's what I like about it, both as a writer and a reader. But then I'd read something else and it would surprise me, and it turns out it was plotted. So, there's no answer. That's what I loved about the podcast. There's no answer. Good. So just get on with it.
Yeah.
We've talked about the preciousness of time, especially when you have small children as well.
Yeah.
And also if you're writing around other demands around work and so on. What's your kind of best time to work ideally? What does that writing routine look like around all the other demands that you have on in your life?
Yeah. Well, I am lucky that I'm completely self-employed, so and that includes the bit of cleaning that I did over the last year with self-employed cleaning. Yeah. But my point being that I can sort of make my week work for me. But of course, childcare in general, or preschool and forest school, which is what my daughter currently attends 3.5 days a week.
Yeah.
That is in the daytime. And honestly, I am not really a daytime person, but I make myself sit down at the desk and get up early and take care and go and get on with my work. But as deadlines prove to me, because often when deadlines approach, I find myself working into the evening after she's gone to sleep. It's not good for me to be working so many hours, but after she's gone to sleep, after 8 o'clock till about 1 a.m. is definitely where the inspiration, where the flow comes much more easily.
Yeah.
But I just don't really want to turn my day upside down. I certainly won't be able to do that come September when she's at school. So I'm just trying to train myself to write during the daytime.
Yeah. It's really hard. It's really hard though, isn't it? Sometimes it can feel like pushing at a closed door when it's just not your time of day that you get into flow. So my peak time when I find it easiest is sort of from sort of 3 p.m. till like 7, which is like the peak of the kids coming home, needing my attention, all of that. And it's just like, I've just got to, find my way in a different time of day, but it's hard.
I feel the same, actually, that like suddenly it like hits 2:00. I'm like, wait, let's go.
Yeah.
But I also know me, and I also know that it's part of the reason I've always had like more than one job, or if sometimes can have more than one creative project on the go, is that I sort of need to have a sort of split focus, and it sort of helps me. I think the pressure of knowing that I'm not going to be able to write can make me focus more. I don't know. I don't know how much of it. I don't know how much of it is me saying the best time for me to write is when I can't write.
Yes.
I'm not sure about that. But I do definitely know that like sometimes I can, some days can feel so long when I'm trying to get the words out, and then other and some evenings I'm like, oh my God, it's 2 a.m. and I've just been writing all evening and having like a whale of a time. I don't know why that is though, really.
And when it's not evening writing at home, if you are writing during the day, do you, because yes, I think there's always something else to do, isn't there? Especially at home. Do you, can you write at home, or is there somewhere that you prefer to go to set up your computer?
I do write at home for the most part, and I do have. I mean, it's actually really not my ideal setup, but I just haven't had the energy or the resources to set up the sort of home office that I'd planned when I moved into this house. So it's just in the corner of the lounge, but I am fairly good at sitting at my desk now. I did buy a standing desk. That made it worse. It might have been better for my posture, but it was not good for my concentration. But when, even though like things were a bit tight at the beginning of the year when I was trying to finish this the manuscript that will be my third novel, I would on a Wednesday because we walk to preschool, but I drive her to forest school on a Wednesday, and I would give myself the extra special treat of going for a coffee, and if I did enough words by 10 a.m. I would have a breakfast at my favourite cafe.
Oh, brilliant.
And that's just like a little like mid-week treat that I would get as a special thing. And I do work really well in cafes, but I just can't afford to. First of all, my adrenals couldn't stand the amount of coffee that I would drink in that place, but also my bank balance wouldn't be happy either.
No, I have a cafe that I work in, which I'm not going to mention because otherwise they might not let me go in anymore, because I often buy one coffee and then make it last for hours and hours and hours and hours. So yes, maybe they need an acknowledgement.
I did name them I did name the coffee shop that gone now, but Mono in Camberwell. I no longer live in Camberwell, and the coffee shop's no longer there, so I can name it. But I lived just around the corner when I was writing the Stranding, and because I was writing in my evenings and the weekends at that point, because I had a full-time job, I spent every Saturday and Sunday in Mono, and I said, when I finish it, I'll put you in the acknowledgements, and they are there. So
that's so lovely.
One thing I have to ask you before we kind of wrap up is, how on earth did you get the idea for the Ruth hiding in the whale?
It was actually 2 years earlier, when I was saving up to do the fertility treatment that resulted in the 4-year-old that's upstairs now. I stepped back from acting and was doing more and more events work. I was working for an events company, essentially. And although the event is creative, I was also missing acting and couldn't do it. So I decided to focus on writing. And I did a creative writing challenge called 28 Plays Later, which sadly no longer exists also. But for that, you had to write a play a day for 28 days. And one day of that, there was a challenge to write something Blue Whale.
Mm-hmm.
And Blue Whale, in response to Blue Whale, and Blue Whale, it said underneath, was a suicide pact that was currently going on online. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely not writing about that. And whether the suicide pact sort of like lodged itself in my brain, I don't really know. But I was on the bus from Camberwell to Brixton, I remember, and I just started writing sort of a dialogue between a father and two young women about the life that their mother lived in London before the end of the world. And part of it, obviously, when you're writing a letter, so then I went back and wrote the script. I was like, what has this got to do with the Blue Whale? And then I was like, oh, they live in it. And so I just described it in the text as though it was a whale carcass that had been like made into a home. And so that was lodged in my head. I'd written this little 10-minute play. I got some friends to read it and they were like, oh, that's a really cool idea. And it's just stayed with me. And then when I worked out that maybe I wanted to pursue writing because basically the fertility treatment hadn't been successful, I thought maybe I would have a change of tack. If I couldn't have the family I wanted, I would go to study. And I phoned UEA, and UEA University told me the University of East Anglia Masters of Creative Writing, I had to write 4,000 words of a work in progress. And I didn't really know what to write, but I decided to sit down and write the beginning, that story from the beginning of that woman. And that's how I got the idea.
Oh, how wonderful. I have to tell you, Kate, I'm listening to it as an audiobook and I'm about an hour off the end. And I have been finding any excuse to get out the house so I can put my earphones on and listen. I just love it. And I cannot wait to finish it this evening. So,
oh, that's so lovely. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the ending.
Oh, it's just, you know, that point where you're enjoying something so much that you're kind of like itching to read it or to listen to it and you can't stop thinking about it. It's just such an extraordinary story.
Oh, thank you. I know that feeling well, because I'm big on audiobooks too, and it's a bit harder to sort of sneak them, isn't it, than a physical book.
Well, my children are slightly older, so I've got a 10 and a 12-year-old, and one of the tricks I do is I put the earphones on and listen to it while I'm doing things around the house, and often they'll come and ask me something, realise I can't hear them, and then after a while they'll come to the conclusion that they can find the answer themselves and then just wander off. So it's so yes, that's my tip to you. Well, it's been so wonderful talking with you. I guess our last question would be, if you had any advice for yourself as a writer at the beginning of your career, or to any of our listeners who are emerging writers and thinking about this, thinking about how they wanted to approach their writing, what piece of advice would you give them? What kind of top tip would you have for them?
So I think the two things are try without expectation, which is so difficult to say, but it still applies to me now that you have to sort of give it your best shot, expect nothing, and sort of carry on. The problem with that is that if something comes to fruition and if you've already started or you've already committed to something else, then it's a bit like, you have to juggle lots of things. But that's a happy juggle. I think that's one thing that's like the sort of the emotional thing, which is really hard to sort of get your head around. And it's hard to remember that still happens to authors once they've been published. So this is like a long-term thing. Throw it out there with your whole heart, but then redirect your attention is my biggest sort of tip for mental health. And then the other thing is break it down into bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
So with the Stranding, I literally Googled how long is a novel, and it said between 80,000 and 100,000 words. So I wrote 90,000 words, and I divided it up into 1,000 word sessions, and I worked out how long it would take me to write the book. And then I put dates next to them that I was going to be writing it, and I almost committed to it. But actually, at the end, as I have done with every draft, I just wrote loads in one go to get to the end. But breaking it up like that just makes you go, oh, I could have a novel by Christmas. Oh, I could have a novel by this time next year. Because, you know, the idea of like giving up your job to go away and write the book is super exciting and a dream, but it's not feasible for the majority.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Can I just quickly ask if there's any of our listeners who would like to find you on socials? Are you on social media? And if so, what are your handles?
Yeah, sadly, I am on social media. I am at Kate Sawyer on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it these days. And I am at Ms. Kate Sawyer, MS Kate Sawyer. And that is Instagram.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Kate. We've absolutely loved having you on.
Cheers. Thanks so much for having me.
You've been listening to the Forthright podcast.
Check out our website, forthright.uk, for further writing resources.